Amen. Amen. So we want to welcome you, Elder. If you appreciate Elder Elton, put a one in the chat. If you appreciate this man, put a one in the chat. Let us see. Yes, yes, we appreciate you, my Elder. We appreciate you very much. We appreciate all that you are doing for us as singers. It's a pleasure when we find a married person who has interest in us as singers and does things for us, because many have forgotten us. So thank you so much. And I want to promise you that by the end of the year, some of us are going to join you, okay, as a married man or a married woman. Welcome, Elder. The floor is yours.
Good night, everybody. I trust that you're well. I don't know, this is the beginning of the year. I haven't seen many of you for the from the start of the year. So first of all, let me wish you a very happy new year. I want to pray that the God of Isaac and Rebekah do for you what he did for Isaac and Rebekah. So if you're a man, I want to pray that God do for you what he did for Isaac, which is find a bride, a spouse that would enhance your life. If you're a woman, I want to pray that God does for you what he did for Rebekah, which is to headhunt you, to find you, to scope you out, and and match you with that person who is equally right for you, who would honor you, who would protect you, who would be by your side to bring out the greatest good in you. And that is what I pray for you. Interestingly, talking about that, I've started a new service that we are calling, thanks to one of your members on the platform, we are calling the Genesis 24. And I'm going to be, if you're interested in it, the servant of Elijah. What's his name again? His name escapes me at this point. But if you're interested in that, we could talk about that later. I'll give you a link. Yes, Eliezer. Yes, the Eliezer matchmaking service
of Abraham.
Eliezer, yeah, he was the servant of Abraham, yes. So we'll talk about that a little later, because that's not what I'm here to talk to you about tonight. I'm actually here to talk to you about how to be attractive, even if you're not beautiful like some, and handsome like some of you. If you're not handsome like Adrian or Pastor Carr or some of the rest of you, if you're not beautiful like Nicole, or all of you are wonderful. You're wonderful people, you're beautiful people. Those of you who consider yourself in the realm of the angelic host, you probably don't need to hear my talk tonight, but you can listen in if you want and contribute. My talk tonight is for mortals like myself. I don't know if I told you, but when I was young, I actually suffered from a little bit of inferiority complex. And yeah, when I was very small, I used to suck my tongue. It's just a little moment of confession here. I don't suffer from inferiority complex anymore, so I could tell you. But I don't want you to go and spread it across the internet or on YouTube or the interweb. Just keep it to yourself. So when I was very small, I used to suck my tongue. And it was a very comforting thing for me. Every night I would go to sleep and suck my tongue. And during the day, and my mother literally hated it. She couldn't stand me sucking my tongue. And she would say that I look very ugly when I suck my tongue. And I developed a habit in the colors. I don't know if many of you would know in the color of your shirt, there used to be, or I think they still put a little bit of a stiff plastic thing right at the edge of the collar inside. And I used to like to play with it. And when my mother harassed me about, how ugly I look, I developed the habit of taking my collar and spreading it across my face to hide what I'm doing. And then she started hounding me that, why are you pressing your nose down? It will get too big. And then I developed a complex about my nose. And when I became a teenager, I couldn't get any girls. you know, the girls, the harder I tried, the more they seemed to run away from me. Mark you, the rest of my life was kind of going good, but I had that little complex going on. At work, not work, when I was in school, my grades were okay. I was fully involved in church. Things were, you know, my spiritual life was kind of on the upbeat, but when it came to the girls, you know. So it's funny. I began to develop the concept, and it's all a mindset. We're going to talk about that in a minute. That, you know, maybe I'm not a handsome. Maybe I'm ugly. Maybe it's my nose. Maybe, you know, I used to be a gangly, a little stringy. Back home they call it stringy. Nowadays we use more politically correct terms, you know, slender guy. And I had a really terrible time. I don't know if you've gone through the same thing, but we're going to talk about beauty and attractiveness tonight, and how to be attractive even if you're not considered beautiful. So, you know, someone who would be fit to be on the cover magazine, the cover page of a magazine. Another time that I really suffered a little bit was when I started to get bald. You know, I was thinking, God, why you visit me with such terrible punishment? I never wanted to become bald. You know, who's going to look on me now? I used to think. But you know what? God worked with me and I got through that. You know, funny. And the funny thing is, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, it's all in your head. It was all in my head. During that phase, I'd gone to a funeral in Anguilla, and you know, I had to be part of the funeral. I stood up, I talked, and when I went to the home that I was staying in, my sister-in-law said, "Oh, there was a message for you." And I said, "What message?" Yeah, somebody called for you. I said, "Well, who would know me in the island?" Anyway, it turned out that some girl, you know, at that point in time, I didn't even realize, you know, and I'm not saying it to boast, because it was nothing of my doing. Some girl had left a message to me, and I thought, whoa, I don't know anybody in the island. Anyway, and I met up with that particular girl, and it turned out that she said, you know, she just loved men with bald head. I mean, that was like a eureka for me. I would never even have thought. So, you know, whoever you are, whatever morphology, whatever shape, whatever age, whatever stage, whatever, there is somebody out there that would love you for who you are and where you are at. Doesn't matter your size. Well, technically speaking, you know, if you're oversized, that's a health issue. But there are some people, I know one guy back in Montserrat who never went out with anyone, you know, slender. He really liked them really meaty, curvy people. So how do we deal with, I don't know if you struggle with any of these, and I can't imagine some of you who are looking at me, most of you who are looking at me would struggle with any of this, but I want to deal with this concept of attraction and how you improve your attractiveness without necessarily going and getting boob jobs and other jobs that I hear people spending thousands of pounds and dollars on, without getting cosmetic surgery, without, you know, trying to change your jawline or your nose or your chin, or without all of that. What do you do? What do you do? Would you be interested in me talking about that? Would you be interested in me expanding and expounding a little bit and giving you some tips, some of which you already know, but we're going to expand it a bit more and dig a little bit deeper? Would anybody here be interested in me speaking about how to be attractive, how to be to attract the opposite gender, even if you are not in the realm of Pastor Carr and Gail and the rest of them? Would you want me to do that? Well, some people are saying yes. Okay, great. I have a little bit of a question for you. By the way, My name is Hilton Samuel. Those of you who are new to the platform, I help single people find the right person for them, and married people, I help them to avoid disaster and divorce. In fact, you know, I am currently running a program called Meet, Date, and Marry. And some of the things I'm going to share with you as part of that program, and some of the elements that I've shared with some of my clients, and they have found really good results. Let me see if I could give you one little, just in Christmas, hold on. I got this from a friend, from a client. Oh dear, I lost it. Let me see if I could find that client again. Let's go here. Oh, okay, there we go. She says, boom, boom, boom. Hello, Hilton. I hope you and your family are well. I just wanted to update you that I am now engaged. The young man proposed on my birthday, so I'm a very happy lady. Thanking you for your blessings. And this was a person who for years have been trying to get quote unquote hitched or, you know, they are wondering why they have been kind of banished to the land of singlehood and nothing is coming their way. And you know, we spoke, we started working together within about 6 months, I think 8 months. You know, God really opened an opportunity for her, and you know, the rest is history. So maybe this year things might happen. And I'm telling you, many of the principles I'm going to share with you, they're not principles that are just fished out of my head. I wish I was that clever. Some of these are very evidence-based principles. So let us dig in. What time is it? It's okay, that's fine. We have a couple of minutes. I have a question for you. And the question is, would you marry someone if they were not beautiful? Would you marry someone if they're not beautiful? Type it in the chat box. Let's see what you have to say. Would you marry someone if they're not beautiful or handsome? Okay, so some people, Karen says yes. All right, no. Some people say yes. The majority. Okay, all right. That's very good. That's interesting. That we're having a mixed bag, but mostly there are lots of people saying yes, they would. Some are saying no. Jonah Kim is saying, but I could. I like that. I could. He probably won't, but he could. Okay, but he would. He has to be handsome. Yes, if our core values are the same, confidence is attractive. Oh, well, we're going to talk about confidence a little later. Nicolette is saying, no, I know you belong to the angels, Nicolette, so we understand that. Yes, as long as they're beautiful inside. I like this answer. This is Angela saying that handsome is relative. Must be attracted to him, which brings us to the next question. Let's talk about the next question. Anne Betsa says, I need to be attracted to my spouse. Okay, we're going to dig into that, Anne. We're going to dig into that. All right. You don't have to, no, listen carefully. You're not going to respond in the chat. I want you to have something to write. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your own handsomeness or beauty? Handsome if you are a guy and beauty if you're a woman. How would you rate on a scale of 1 to 10? How would you rate your own handsomeness or beauty? Just on a scale. You don't have to share it with us. I just want you to just put a figure down. Maybe you've thought about it, maybe you haven't. How would you rate that? And then I'm going to ask you a different question. And the question, you know that I've been using and dancing between these terms. How would you rate your own attraction or attractiveness? How would you rate your own attractiveness on a scale of 1 to 10? How would you rate it? Do you think you're an attractive person? And if so, where would you put it? And what needs to improve? What do you need to do to shift? Well, I'm going to tell you all about that tonight. I don't know, when I used to rate myself, I in terms of handsomeness, I never thought in my earlier days that I was considered to be handsome. I mean, later on, I became a little bit more mature, and I thought, well, look, I'm not really grotesquely ugly, but I'm also not, I'm not Denzel Washington either. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I am just average in the center, fine. And by the way, most of us are on the bell-shaped curve average. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but let us really now go into talk about what is beauty or handsomeness, and why is it important, and also what is attraction, what is attractiveness. When you hear the term beauty, what do you think about? What do you think about? You could unmute yourself and just talk to me, just quickly, briefly. When you hear the term, if someone is beautiful or handsome, what pops into your mind when you think about these?
Physical attributes.
Physical attributes. Physical attributes. Anybody else? Okay.
Society's standard of beauty. Society's standard of beauty. Long hair, light skin, slim. That's what society portrays beauty as, but we know differently.
I like that. I see you're getting into the colorism there. But yes, society tend to brainwash us with these standards of beauty. Let me just kind of segue. What do you think attractiveness is? And do you think that they're different? So can you be beautiful and not attractive, be attractive? Or can you be attractive and not necessarily beautiful? What do you think about those?
I think it can happen. I think someone can be attractive. You see them, they're beautiful, but they're not attractive to you. I've seen people like women like that, very beautiful, but something about them, they just don't attract me at all.
Yes, it doesn't click. It doesn't, the responsive chord in your heart. There's no chemistry. By the way, has this ever happened to you? Have you ever had the experience where you see a very attractive person, whether very handsome or very pretty, and they have all the curves in the right place, the hour-shaped the hour-shaped form, or the tall, dark, and handsome kind of thing? And you get to know them, and they open their mouth, and it's like biting into an apple and recognizing and biting into a worm, a pretty apple with a worm inside. Have you ever had that experience? I've had that experience where I've seen girls, man, they look like they walk off the cover of a Sports Illustrated magazine. They open their mouth and oh my days, your heart sinks. All that attraction, all that beauty just simply melts away. And conversely, have you ever had an experience where you see someone who looks a bit off-putting, and then you get to know the person? And when you get to know that person, even though initially they may not qualify for any beauty contest, when you get to know them, you forget that they are not physically what we call attractive. They're not physically beautiful. I met a guy, those of you who are from Trinidad, I met a guy some years ago, I can't remember his name. And when you first see him, you almost like, you kind of draw back. because his face was all scarred. And I got to know him, and that guy was such a beautiful soul that, you know, I brought him to my house, he met my family, I arranged for him to speak at church, and he was just such a wonderful soul. It seemed as though what happened to him that, you know, unfortunately, he became homeless. He was lying on a bench in the park someplace in Trinidad, and some vicious, callous person passed and threw acid on him, threw acid on his face. And he was properly scarred. But when you met him, this guy was a true man of God. And his soul was, his inner, there was some inner beauty that came forth, that after you get to know him and you interact with him and you become friends with him, you forget those things that he had on his face. So just for simplicity today, I am going to introduce you to, I call them 3 Ps, but I call them 3 Ps just to arrange them in my head and to simplify them for you. 3 Ps of attraction, attractiveness. 3 Ps of attractiveness. And I'm not going to go through every single detail of all the Ps, but I will go through 1 or 2 points to help you to immediately, in fact, you can start being attracted tonight, tomorrow. You could immediately apply some of these principles. You don't have to go and wait any very, very long length of time before you begin to apply them. The first one, let me tell you the 3 Ps. I'll tell you all of them first. The first one is what I call psychology. So there's psychology, there's personality, and there is what I call physicality. I just made up that word. So, you know, psychology, personality, physicality. So I'm going to go through each of them, and I'm going to give you 1 or 2 points for each of them. And then after that, we're going to have a little bit of a discussion. Is that okay? All right. Now, with regards to, I use the term psychology, but I actually mean your mindset, the way you think, and how you think. And I'm just going to give you maybe 3 different points of the mindset. And the first mindset is, and I'm going to ask you this question, and I know what all of you are going to say. You know what you're going to say? You're going to say yes. I could almost tell, but we're going to still really dissect it. Here's a question. All you women, do you love men? Do you love men? Now, that sounds like a rather trite question, because you're going to say yes. But I don't mean it surface. I'm not asking you if you love men, simply the ones that you want to be your husband or the ones that you want to be your children's father. I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you deep down in your heart, do you really like these creatures called men? And the reason why I'm all, and the same goes for the men. Do you love women? Because when I hear women talk, a lot of women talk, they man bash all the time. They talk about there are no good men in the church. They talk about how these men, and in fact, I was doing a seminar, a physical seminar, years and years ago. And I said it to the people in the audience, I'm going to give you a word. And when I give you the word, I want you to write on your paper the first thing that pops into your mind. So I gave them several words, and then I said man or men. And they wrote what they wrote, and I asked them to volunteer what they have written. This girl piped up, this woman piped up, this young woman, and said, so I acknowledged her. She said, when you said men, the first thing that came to my mind is dog. I said, dog. Like that was so weird. Now, you know, we went into discussing it, but here is the thing, here is the conundrum. How could you think of men negatively and expect to get a good man? And similarly, how could we as men think of women in disparaging ways and expect to get a good woman. You see, the mind is a very funny thing, and I'm talking about mindset. You need to love the opposite gender the way people love their pets. And I'm just saying, you know, I don't know if you're a cat lover or a dog lover, but where we are here in England, you know, they just love pets. And there are some people who are into cats, and there are some people who are into dogs. If they see them on the street, they want to pet and pat and play with them and scratch their stomachs. This is the point I'm making. You need to have a genuine love for members of the opposite gender if you really want to attract someone. And this is not something that you could put on, because human beings, like dogs, can sniff out whether or not you're really, really into them. When I used to go to school, us children, we used to know the teachers who love children. Even if they were strict, even if they were disciplinarians, we just instinctively knew the teachers who really love children and were there to help children. That's the point I'm making. When you begin to love these creatures called men, or these angels called women, when you begin to really genuinely deep down in your soul, begin to be curious about them, begin to, you know, wonder and be intrigued by them, you know what? You will begin to attract them, because they would sense that you love them. I could give you ideas of how to do that, but I won't stay there I won't get into that at this point. I will go through, and if you want a couple of ideas, I'll come back to that. Another mindset that we need to have is we need to be other focused. Oh, let me just explain to that. Actually, I want to give you a quote by Ellen G. White. And before I give you the quote, I'm going to ask, let me see if I could share my screen. And I'm going to I actually can't find the quote right now. I can't find the quote, so I'll go on. The other mindset I think I would like to share with you is something called an inner locus of control. Have you ever heard that term before? Inner locus of control. What do you understand that term to mean? Anybody could unmute and talk to me. What is an inner locus of control? Anybody, please do. You could type it in the chat, or you can unmute and talk to me. I'm going to give you an example. Remember, I think it's in the Gospel of John, or in one of the Gospel, Matthew, Mark, or Luke, or John, where Jesus was brought to Pilate. And Pilate, was it Pilate? Yes, Pilate was quizzing Jesus. He always wanted to know about this Jesus that he heard about. And he was, you know, threatening Jesus, telling Jesus, do you know that I have, almost like I have the power of life or death over you. Before, as he was interrogating Jesus, Jesus was not responding. He was just standing there, just observing the going-ons. And when Pilate said, look, you know, I actually have the power of life and death over you, Jesus said, you have no power over me except it is given from above. Inner locus of control is really an attitude where you are not governed by external stimuli. And this is where the quote from Ellen White comes in, that I'm sorry. Ellen White says of Jesus, that he was not dejected by censure or elated by applause. Listen to those terms. He wasn't dejected by censure or elated by applause. What this is saying is that external things didn't influence Jesus. Jesus lived above that, and he operated from an internal and maybe a higher power that works internally with him. And he does what he wanted to do because, or he did what he wanted to do because he wanted to do it, regardless to how other people think or thought of him. And this thing is something I would like to share with you, because when you become grounded within yourself, when you become, when you get to the point where other people's thoughts of you, other people's ideas of you, other people's, the way other people want to A, control you, or B, get to you, don't actually make you cringe. You ride above the tide of popularity, popular opinions, whether they are good or even, no, whether they are bad or even good. And you become powerfully attractive when you're able to do this. It's not always easy. And sometimes you will not always get it right. And sometimes people will do get to you. But if for the majority of the time you're able to operate like how Jesus operated, then you become a being that is seen and respected, and people are going to be magnetized towards you if you're not easily influenced. Now, somebody put in the chat that confidence, and many people speak about confidence. They want a confident man, they want a confident woman. Personally, I used to think that a couple of years ago, but I've changed my mind about confidence. I think confidence is a bit overrated, and I'll explain why. Would you like me to explain why? Let me explain why. Confidence is the consciousness that you, and the consciousness that you could execute a kind of work, you know? So for example, many of you here are professionals in various fields. You are able to operate in your field confidently because you have the skills, you have the experience, you know how to do it. You could stand on your head and do it. You could wake up in the middle of the night and do it. That is confidence. Now, what is more powerful and what is more attractive is something that I would call courage. I think courage trumps confidence in terms of an attractive feature. What is courage? Now, courage is almost like what some people used to say, you feel the fear and do it anyway. It is knowing and risking you're risking failure. However, you're making an attempt knowing that you could either win or you could fail. And that is what I hear a lot of women say. You know, one girl told me, if he doesn't come and talk to me, if he doesn't have the courage, she used the term confidence, but I think it was more courage. If he didn't have the courage to come and speak to her, he's not deserving of her. So courage, not courage, courage trumps confidence in terms of a quality that attracts people. And let me ask you here, I'm going to give you a challenge. I'm going to give you a challenge. Do you have a piece of paper? I want you to write down three things Write down 3 things that you know you should have done, that you have been thinking of doing, that you have, not done, simply because, you fear. 3 things. And then during this coming week, tomorrow and the following week, I want you to take the courage to do it. Do 3 things, 3 courageous things. 3 courageous things. Would anybody here risk coming on screen? And which brings me to another beautiful point that I want to make. That a lot of you here, many of you don't put on your camera for various reasons, and some valid, many valid. I suppose all of them are valid. But if I were in your position, I would have the courage to show up and put my camera on, because that is the object of what we are doing. So I ask you the question, how courageous are you? How courageous are you? Whoever you are, wherever you are, why are you hiding behind a black screen? Why are you not putting on your camera when this is a platform where people are wanting to meet people? This is interesting. Well, you have your reasons, but I would challenge you to be courageous and show up. Show up with your whole self. Show up, in whatever you are. Have the courage to show up. And by the way, if people don't see you, how do you expect them to choose you? How do you expect them to choose you? So be courageous. Come on screen. Let's see you. I realize and I compliment many of you who are now coming on screen, but I am going to challenge you. Here is a challenge that I have for all of you. Whenever you go on any Zoom platform, I want you to have the courage to show up. If you go to church or any public meeting, have the courage to walk up front and sit in the front. When I met my wife, I didn't have a problem with this kind of thing. So whenever I walk into church, I walk straight up and sit at the front. And she cringed. It was like, I said, well, what's the problem? She didn't like to do it. But ultimately, I said, just nobody's going to kill you. Nobody's going to lock you up. Just do it. Sure. Hallelujah. Congratulations to those of you who are now on screen, who went off. Well done. A thumbs up. And those of you who were on screen from before, you get 2 stars from me. And if you want me to recommend you as a courageous person, just let me know, and I will certainly give you a recommendation. All right. Very well. Well done. So we're talking about having an internal locus of control. Should I give you an example of this? Many of you, and I hear this all the time, and I get this question all the time, talk about who should first approach. Should a man approach? Should a woman approach a man, or should a man approach a woman? When you really become courageous, when you have a powerful locus of control, you do what you want to do because you want to do it, and not because of how other people will perceive it. Shall I repeat that again? When you when you move to this upper level, when you come into this dimension of operating from an inner locus of control, if you're a woman, you're not going to die if you see someone and you decide to talk to them. You do it because you want to do it, not because of how the other person is going to perceive it. And you risk, regardless to how they respond, this is what you do. And let me just move on to another. I'm going to give you another little tip here. If it is your heart is cringing, if you see somebody on this platform that you need to talk to, or you want to talk to, or you think that, you know, I want to talk to this person. And you know, I have an entire program of how to go about communicating with people so that you're not rejected. But just for now, what I'm saying, if you see anybody here on this platform or any other platform that you feel, look, I want to talk to that person, I suggest you do this. You know, maybe you're very hesitant and you don't know what they're going to do. Oh my, particularly if you're female. This is what I suggest to people. And this is a tip that you may want to take down or take on board. Always perceive it. And this is a perception. This is a psychology. Always think about it as if it's an experiment. Let me repeat that again, because the simplicity of it may escape you. Whatever you want to do that you have some inhibitions about, think about it like you're carrying out research. So if you see somebody like Adrian is a pretty confident guy, and he's a no-nonsense kind of, and you know, I gather that he doesn't suffer fools lightly, and you're quivering and your boots as a woman, you know, to talk to Adrian. What you want to do, you want to say to yourself, this fellow Adrian, I wonder if I do this, how he's going to respond. And then you do it, and then you check to see his response. And it may shock you, his response may shock. I'm not saying that you flood Adrian's email or messenger with messages now. I'm just giving you an example. You just say, look, guys, you know, and you talk to him as if I don't know further how to explain it. So you just send a message and you see the impact and the response of the message. And once you have done that, then you can react and just come back. If you're a man and you see someone that you want to talk to and you think that they're out of your league, just experiment. Just experiment. And this is what I would call an inner locus of control. There are many different ways you can apply this, but just for the time that we have, I will move on to another section that I want to move on to, which is, remember we talk about psychology. I am going to move on now. Should I do personality or physicality? Which one do you think I should do? Cavell, which one would you like to hear about? Personality or physicality?
I'm going to go with personality.
You want to go with personality? All right. Well done on you. And I'm going to talk about, there are 4 levels in this personality, and I call them the LGBP plus, not LGBT. I know some of you have active mind, is LGBP plus. I'm going to tell you what they are. So L is for love, and I spoke a little about love. The other thing is good, doing goodness. The next one is behavior, and the P is proximity. So we don't have a lot of time, so maybe I should choose someone. Angelica, which one would you like us to talk about? Anyway, Angelica, I'll talk about goodness, okay? Goodness. Here's a quote from Ellen White. I'm going to give you a quote. I love this quote. And she says, let me see if I could bring, yes, I have it here. I'm going to see if I could bring it on screen. Bear with me. Personality. And let's try this. She says, can you see my screen? Yeah. Let me just do this slideshow.
Yes.
Okay, great. She said, Christ's method alone will give true success in reaching people. Now, I want you, you know, I just want, I know that she's talking about evangelizing here, but I'm going to reframe what she's saying, because the principles could be extracted in terms of reaching prospects. So Christ's method alone will give true success in reaching people. The Savior, look at the word, mingled with men as one who desired their good. He showed his sympathy for them, ministered to their needs, won their confidence, and then he bade them follow me. You notice that Christ mingled. Oops, sorry, let's go back here. He mingled. Not only did he mingle, he desired their good. He did good. He showed his sympathy for them, ministered to their needs, won their confidence, and bade them follow me. Okay, so I'm going to stop. All right. That, in a nutshell, has all the elements you need to become a powerfully attractive person to the members of the opposite gender. Kindness, goodness. You know, Peter spoke about it in 1 Peter chapter 3, where he spoke about the fact that women need to really go into doing good works to win their husbands, their ungodly husbands. Similarly, the aspects of doing good, of helping and being helped, is something that we need to develop. Let me give you a little story. I don't know if you've heard of this guy. Let me just see if I could find. I'm going to share again. Have you ever heard about Cheeto and Pocho? Anybody has ever heard about them? Cheeto and Pocho? All right. Anybody here has heard about Cheeto? Have you ever heard of the guy who swims with crocodiles? I'm going to tell you a quick story about this guy. Cheeto, I think that they're from Central America. Is it Central America or South America? One of those countries. This man, Cheeto, one day found a crocodile that a hunter had shot, and shot him in his eye, and he was left to die. It was a young crocodile, and for some reason or the other, I don't know what got into his head. He took the crocodile home and began to nurse the crocodile back to health over a couple of weeks. And when the crocodile was recovered, he took the crocodile to the river to release the crocodile back into the swamps. And he did that. He went and released the crocodile, went home that evening and went to sleep as usual with his family. Then in the morning when he woke up and opened the door, the crocodile was on the veranda of his house sleeping. I couldn't believe it. So he took the crocodile back to release the crocodile back into the wild. Oh my days. Hold on, let me see if I could share this picture. Okay. But the crocodile started following him around like a pet. And sooner or later, they develop a bond. This man and the crocodile develop a bond to the point where he was able to swim with the crocodile. Eventually, he was even able to do like circus-like shows where the crocodile will open his mouth. He would put his head in the crocodile's mouth. Here you see him, touching the crocodile mouth with his chin. And people were absolutely flabbergasted. Absolutely flabbergasted. And you know why? because he ministered to the crocodile. He helped the crocodile. I want to expand this because this is a powerful thing. I really want to rub it in. When the servant of Abraham went to Mesopotamia, he went to a particular well and he prayed. And in his prayer, he asked God for certain features, certain qualities. When he was finished praying, guess who showed up? Rebecca showed up. And he asked Rebecca for a drink of water. Rebecca said, no problem, I'll get you some water. In fact, Rebecca went further to suggest, all right, I'll get you some water, and guess what? I'll also get some water for your camels. So Rebecca went over and beyond. This is the power of kindness. The Bible says, be kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as even as God for Christ's sake has forgiven you. Now, you know what we have found in our research? We have found that kindness is probably one of the single most indicators of whether or not a marriage would succeed. In other words, if a person is nice or kind, your marriage has a greater chance of succeeding than if they're not. And this is one of the qualities you should be looking for. Is this person nice? Is that person kind? Is this person helpful? And by the way, when you actually demonstrate these qualities, people are drawn to you. This is a principle that is timeless, absolutely timeless. In Mark, I think around Mark chapter 2, there is and in Mark chapter 2, I forgot to look up the reference for this. There's a statement in Mark, I think it's at the end, where Mark observed that there were people flocking to Jesus from everywhere. They came to Nazareth where he was. You know, his reputation went before him. If you're kind, if you're helpful, if you're generous, if you are nice, people are going to talk about you. People are going to recommend you. This feature is not a feature that you should overlook easily. You should go about looking to do good for people, not just to people that you're interested in, by the way. don't think that it works simply because you like this person, you're going to be kind to them. You should be generally kind. You should be generally helpful. You should go out of your way to help people. And this feature would literally cause people to respect you, to be attracted to you, and recommend you to other people. Are we clear with that? When was the last time you demonstrated kindness? And I'm not saying kindness to people, you like this guy or you like this person, that they're going to, invite you back to your house. If you invite them if you invite them for dinner, they're likely to invite you back for dinner. I'm talking about, how do you respond to people who are down and out? Do you really do good works? Do you really go out and look for people? And there is another aspect to this, kindness and goodness. Do you know that asking for help is probably one of the easiest ways to get someone's attention? Go back to Genesis chapter 24. What did the servant do to get Rebecca's attention? He asked for help. The woman at the well with Jesus, she asked for help. By the way, A lot of men, most men, when you ask them for help, feel honored, literally feel honored. I suggest to women all the time that whatever you are, wherever you are, if you're interested in a guy, ask them to help you with something. Ask him to help you with something. Most people, you get maybe a 1 percentile, persons who are not really very nice, but most people would respond. And that is one of the best ways to know more about a person as they're helping you. Okay, time has gone, and I just want to talk lastly about, although I have quite a few other things, I'll just talk lastly about something that would be of interest to many of you. In terms of personality, I want to suggest that you begin to exemplify the features of your gender that is attractive to the opposite gender. By the way, just putting it out there, where I believe in a binary gender, male and female, made, he, them. And I believe and I espouse and I teach that most men are attracted to the femininity of women. And I believe and teach that most women are attracted to the masculinity in men, that we are different. And it is the difference in us that attracts us. And out of interest, what has happened is that many women today have lost the art of being feminine. It's an art form. And a lot of men have actually lost real solid masculinity. And I'm going to ask the men first, what are some female, by the way, just for disclaimer, I know I was giving this talk some time ago and some smart Alex said, oh, those qualities are in women too, and men have similar qualities as you're putting for women. By the way, we all have these qualities. However, in male, there are certain qualities that kind of predominate. I don't know if I use the right word there. So they're more predominant in males than females, and conversely. So let me just see if you have, I'm going to share some feminine qualities, but I want the men here to tell me what are some feminine qualities that are attractive to you. And before you even do that, let me just say that you being a woman is an attractive feature to men. And men, you being male is an attractive feature to women, even without you doing anything. So let's start with the men first, okay? I see David here. I see Jonah Kim, Pastor Carr, Adrian. I'm just flitting across the screen. Those of you who are males on the thing, put in the chat some of the feminine qualities that you look for in women. Or you can unmute yourself and tell me. Okay, Jonah Kim says kindness, kind-heartedness, gentleness of spirit. Miss Carol, they like nice legs. Okay. David says understanding. Okay, yes, David. Kindness, Adrian. Compassion, classy. Oh, right, classy. Like class. Okay, right. Anybody else? Before we move on to the women, I would like you to tell us what you're looking for, and then I'll give you a list of qualities. Good conversation. Now, women, tell us what are some male attributes that are attractive to you. Leadership, backbone, backbone. We all have that. A longer list elder, okay. Gentle, oh, being a gentleman, okay. Almost like showing chivalry, okay. Like somebody said, opening the door, strong, knowledgeable, humor, understanding, good decision maker, honesty. Okay, should I actually share with you some male and female distinct qualities? So there are some female qualities that are very appealing, some female qualities that are disconcerting, you know, just off-putting, evidence of physical strength. Ooh, I guess you like, Miss Carol, those guys who spend a lot of time in the gym, getting ripped. Leadership, spirituality, Melanie, good communicator, willingness to take responsibility. Okay. All right, the desire to protect and provide, that is interesting. Sense of humor. You know, Renee, why I think that is interesting? Because in the current world that we're living in, some women, and I noticed that you seem to be, you look like a medical doctor. You have that thing around, stethoscope around you. You're probably making more money than many men. Sense of humor, funny, okay, passionate. All right. Can I share with you, my friends, some qualities that are generally male or female? Should I share? Here we go. I got this from a book that I was reading some time ago. I don't know. I need to separate this. And this guy has masculine gender personality qualities, and he divides them into 3 categories. One is admirable, and another one is neutral, and then the third is regrettable. Now, I've gone through this and I've seen some things that he puts as admirable that I would really put more over regrettable. And there are some things that he puts in the regrettable column that I really think should have been in the admirable. And then he has some that are just neither here nor there. Okay, I'll just read a couple of them out. Stable, steady, deliberate, strong, self-confident, decisive, independent, determined, committed, active, autonomous, courageous, brave, enterprising, industrious, task-oriented, conscientious, truthful, initiated, organized, methodical, disciplined, reliable, ingenious, inventive, creative, realistic, clear-headed, and he has a whole ton more. And the regrettable or off-putting column here is like macho, tough, hard, stoical, stern, hard-headed, sadistic, cruel, crafty, vindictive, disorderly, sloppy, noisy, loud, alcoholic, drug-dependent, coarse, crude, superficial, artificial. There are too many for me to run through. I'm just going to go down to the feminine section. And here, he has the admirable traits like tender, warm, loving, friendly, affectionate, sophisticated, poised, creative, artistic, expressive, intelligent, refined, gracious, tactful, self-confident, independent. And that you know, is a little bit questionable. Not too independent, but independent, yes. Sensitive, sympathetic, empathetic, compassionate, etc., etc. Over here on the regrettable section, he has submissive, subordinate, subservient, differential. Now, differential, I would actually put it over on the admirable. Passive, non-assertive, meek, weak, masochistic, apologetic. This again, apologetic, I would move depending on the situation. Vulnerable, a little question mark here. Needy, timid, fragile, artificial, and I will just stay there. And I could share some of these with you. I've done some videos about these, I could share those with you guys at a later date. Okay, that's a mouthful. That's a lot. And I know I have been really speaking. I'm going to just pause here because we need to wrap up. To re-emphasize that there are a lot more to us that beyond our physical beauty. I want to suggest that physical beauty has its place, and one of the function of beauty is to indicate genes. So a lot of men look for that hour-shaped glass, long hair, as somebody was saying, and the type of skin that you have. All of these are indication of how healthy you are. And instinctively, in terms of mate selection, we tend to want to have someone who would, when we are going to reproduce, would have good genes to pass on to our offspring. So beauty has its place. Beyond the beauty, though, in terms of establishing a relationship, there are other qualities that are important. In fact, I suggest to people that sometimes, you know, men love all kinds of sizes, and similarly, women love all kinds of sizes. Of course, if you're ripped, well, good for you. But we need to be healthy. One of the things we should work towards is being healthy. These attributes that I spoke about, when we embody these attributes, we become more powerful, we become more attractive, we become people that other people gravitate towards. And so I ask you the question that I started with. How attractive are you? And what can you do to increase your attractiveness? I can give you several ideas, but in the interest of time, I'm going to pause here and ask you to feedback. If you have any questions, if you have any comments on some of the things that I've said. Okay. And then I will share with you that this is only one section of a program that I'm currently doing called Meet, Date, and Marry. So, do you have any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Is that Miss Carol?
Yes,
are you able to come on
this
screen,
Miss Carol? I'm going to choose not to tonight. I was on last week and everyone has seen how I look, so.
I haven't. But that's fine.
I have a question, and
yes, the question is.
It's somewhat controversial, but I want your opinion. And if you have any research to back this up, please let me know. Most women know when they first meet you, that is the guy that's interested in pursuing you. Most women know in the first 10 to 15 minutes whether or not it's going to go past the first date. A man, on the other hand, they have to give it maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or maybe just one date just to vet you or to figure out whether or not it's going to go to the second date. What are your thoughts about that? And what does the research say?
Okay. The timing that you have, I think that we, as human beings, what we know, as human beings, how must I put it? As human beings, we are able to absorb a lot of information and data from meeting someone. And many of that data is absorbed and subconsciously. And the subconscious mind assess this data and give you feedback primarily based on a number of different factors, which includes the template you have in your head about whether or not this person is good for you. And so we have what some people would call intuition or gut feeling about this. And this gut feeling can turn out to be right, and it can also turn out to be very wrong because of a number of different things. So, so you're quite right. Women tend to be, I won't say that they're more intuitive, but their intuition is sharper by virtue of the fact that they use this a lot more than men. So hence they're able to assess quicker and faster than men. And they make up their minds based on that. My opinion on that is that sometimes you're right, but sometimes you're not always right. And what I would say is that we give ourselves several different criteria to confirm or deny whether or not what we initially felt is right or wrong. With regards to men, men work both on emotions and logic. So a man would meet you and they would think you're good wife material. However, in their minds, they need to assess if what they feel is right. So it may look as if or sound as if that men take a longer time. By the way, men go through a different series of steps in order to come to that conclusion than women. It can be a little bit confusing. But we know there is, I don't know if I could find the research off the top of my head, but there is some research I read some time ago that it takes a man, yes, they have a general idea, but it takes a man up to around 6 months for them to confirm whether or not they want to go ahead with a relationship. 6 months and more, or more. But that doesn't mean that they don't have some kind of preconceived idea as to whether or not you would make good wife material earlier.
I think that's interesting. Can you elaborate just a little bit more on that? Because men, I find to be very hesitant. And one man, I'm not going to say who it is or anything. He came right out and told me, we need to be sure about you.
Yeah.
And if we're not sure about you, we're going to be a little, hesitant and cautious. And I think that's really interesting because most men, especially under COVID, coming out of hibernation, they want a relationship, but they're also hesitant. Can you talk a little bit about that some more?
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about, I don't know if we have the time, but you're quite right. Men, the dating stages of men are very different from a woman. When a woman loves you or sees you, likes you and loves you, it's almost, I'll give you an example. They have found that when men and women marry, there is a totally different pattern of behavior. A woman who is in love and committed, when they marry, that commitment and love doesn't actually change. because they know what they wanted, they're getting what they wanted. It doesn't actually change. They just love that person. For a man, the signing on the dotted line actually shifts and changes his behavior. Before signing on the dotted line, he behaves a different way. And in fact, and it's confusing to some men, and some men don't know how to explain it. A man may really I love you, see you and love you and want you and pursue you. Then he gets you, and all of a sudden it's, you know, he almost like backpedal. And some men are like rubber bands. They come into you and things are going right, and then after a while they just pull back. You don't know what's going on, you don't know where they stand, and then it's as if they then think about it or go off in their cave or whatever, and then they come back again, you know, this seesaw kind of movement. And it has to do with probably how the mind works for men. And sometimes with a woman, I think women are familiar with emotions and how emotions work. Most modern men, and I'm just saying most, not every single one of us, we compartmentalize a lot of things, including emotions. And when we are flooded with emotions, it's kind of challenging for us. And sometimes, you know, even when we're flooded, we need to either pull back to cool down. The rush of all these hormones and things in our bodies need to settle before we could, you know, collect our minds. Many times we're not able to explain it. We just need some space. And women are very kind of confused by that. So the stages are slightly different for men and women, but that doesn't mean that they don't love you or they don't desire. What I think is difficult for both the men, and men shouldn't really do that, is to breadcrumb women. I don't know if you know the term breadcrumbing. It's like stringing you along, you know, tampering with hearts, tinkering with hearts, while they're trying to make up their mind. So they just keep you expectant. And even in the world, I've come across some men who live with women. And there was a State of the Union report, I think in the US some time ago, where they found that there are men living with women and still looking for their soulmates. So that is a bit challenging. Well, I don't want to go and begin to speak too much about that, but I hope that helps.
It does, Brother Hilton. What I find ironic, most men want someone beautiful. They would love to find an Adventist Halle Berry or Beyonce, but when they get her, you know, if they do exactly what you just said, it's like, if the woman isn't up on things and they don't understand why they're acting that way, it can really be confusing in a relationship. It's just interesting. It's really interesting.
Well, yes, that it's quite, it's a difficult thing to explain, and you know, men are not stupid. Let me just say, we are not stupid. We know that beauty, like the Bible says, you know, beauty is fleeting, it's vain. Yes, we would love to have it, but you would hear men talk about this term, they use this term, wife material, which goes beyond. So a man would like you and love you, but they are observing your behavior and they're sussing you to see, you know, if the beauty is more than skin deep. Okay, thank you. Let's hear Dawn, or is it Dawn? Yes, Dawn.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering, so you explained that whole process. So understanding that, if that's the case, what would your advice be to someone that was on the receiving end of the rubber band?
I like your question. This is a very good question.
The usual terminology.
Yeah. The best way to deal with it if you're on the receiving end is not to freak out. And it's to operate from an inner locus of control. And also to put some boundaries in place. I didn't get to talk about boundaries, but boundaries, you need to, when the man comes back, you need to be very clear about, well, look, you know, this type of behavior is not the type of behavior that you can maybe not tolerate, but you don't like. It doesn't work for you. And you would much prefer, and you indicate what you would prefer going forward. If this is going to go forward, you know, you need to be very clear about what works for you and what doesn't work for you. There are lots of other things you can do. And of course, do not, I would suggest to not pursue. If he goes out and you reach out once or twice and he's not, just leave him. Just let him be. And usually when you let them be, they come back full circle. And when they come back, I suggest, I coach people that when he comes back, he has to work to attain what he had before, even harder.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else quickly? Okay, let's hear Lisa. And
yeah, so I've heard the term, you know, what's good for you in a relationship before, right? And you know, while I think I know what I want, maybe sometimes the what's good for you is kind of elusive, especially in the first stages of the relationship, when you're just hanging out and, you know, getting to know each other. I don't know if you can break that down a little bit as far as moving from one stage to the next and really, you know, honing in on those things. It seems like it's more than just, you know, what I want from the relationship, but how do I determine, well, let's say in a longer term relationship, this person will really fit into what I need or what's good for me?
oh, okay, all right. So of course you have to be very clear of what you want. You have to be lucidly clear about what is it that you want. What is it that is necessary? And I have a training on this. It's a good thing. This is a very good question. And I don't want to go too deep into it, but I have a training on this, that when you're in a relationship, you have to be so clear about what is it that is necessary to make a functional family, not just what's good for you. You think in your mind, you're projecting the future. What type of family, what type of home do you want? And what criteria, what would make you happy? Absolutely. If you don't have it. I go as far as to tell people, look, you know, for human beings to be functional, you have to have basic ingredients. You have to have air, water, food, and, you know, shelter. What would be your air, water, food, and shelter for a home? You absolutely must have those. Then you decide, can this person supply those? Can they supply those? And a further question that you ask yourself is, yeah, they can. Are they willing to? You know, they probably can, most people, you know, but are they willing to? And then there is, do you have what the person wants? Are you willing to supply what the person wants? And this is a concept of what we call mutuality. So it's not only about your needs, it's about his needs too. And then finally, this is very crucial. What's your name? Lisa. Do you, I don't know how to put this very quickly and easily, because this is like the basis of all relationships. Are you able to handle both your emotions and the other person's emotions. This is what we call emotional regularity, being able to regulate your emotions, being able to understand what emotions are. And this is a whole lecture series by itself, because in a close relationship, certain types of emotions are going to trigger. And by virtue of that relationship, these emotions are going to trigger certain things within both of you that normally won't be triggered. And if you are not able to be insightful about what the emotions are, what do they mean, what needs are they indicating, how do you regulate these emotions, then you're in for a stormy ride. So that is a bit of a short answer to your question, Lisa. So know what you want, check to see if the person can supply them. Is the person willing to supply them? Can you supply the person's need? Are you willing to supply the person's need? Are you able to manage and handle both your own emotions when they are triggered, whether good or bad, and can you respond in a mutual way the other person's emotions? Because relationship actually ride on emotions. It's the engine that carries the relationship. Sorry, that's a bit of a mouthful too. I hope that helps, Lisa.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take 2 more questions and then we'll wrap up. Okay, I don't see any more questions.
I have a question for you.
Yes, Pastor.
Yes, you said that you spoke about the lady that is now engaged, that was single for many years.
Mm-hmm.
What was the secret that caused her to find someone?
Well, there are, I don't know if there's any one secret, but I do know that I took her through a series where, you know, we actually spoke about, you know, the future, what she has in mind, and we did a series of exercises that I can't really get into here, but we really also hone in on what some of that, what do you call it? What I call it is inner locus of control. And something shifted for her that opened up the floodgates, well, opened up the gate for someone to come in to her life. I don't know if there's any one thing. I think it's a series of things, some more important than others. But it's not impossible. It's not impossible for anyone. Doesn't matter your age. I mean, for some, at certain ages, it's a little bit more challenging, but definitely not impossible. Yes, Grace.
Okay, let me do it before you ask me to. I knew you were going to tell me to turn on my camera. Hi, how are you? Thank you for
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for turning your camera on.
Thank you for your presentation, as always, very inspirational and educational, instructive also. I'm sorry, I was having supper. I've always prided myself in being a very confident person, but tonight, I like your suggestive spin, for want of a better terminology, as it relates to being courageous. Because as you suggested, I'd walk into a room or come to a space and the place is full and I'm always walking right up to the front, or I've never been shy to like be the first one to ask a question if I'm in a room full and so forth. So thank you for that. It makes me now realize that I have another quality other than just thinking that, oh, I'm just this confident woman, but it means that I'm courageous. So I love that. I thank you for that. Probably this might be a little bit problematic, but I I fall in that category of a woman who would have been married before and so is older and is also seeking after companionship and love. And I'm sure that there are a few others of us who are part of the ministry. What advice would you give now that we have learned about courage? Because you have, if you survey the ministry, there are a lot, the pastor would say, and pastor love to say this, I'm troubling pastor right now. There are a lot of godly men, but the men who are here, I'm sure they want children. I am not having any more children. I am 53. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just being real, Brother Hilton, you know, but still seeking after companionship. And so the ministry has several women like myself. I hope I'm not speaking out of terms. What advice would you give for us to step up our courage or our confidence, whether or not we want to use both words interchangeably, in finding someone, a godly man?
Yeah, let me give you a quick advice that, you know, the first thing is what I would suggest is to get what I call a family template. Rather than working from, you're asking the question about getting a godly man, right? I actually say to people, let's work backwards. And those who have heard me speak may have heard me refer to this several times. Rather than focus on the man or the woman, focus on what you want in your future home. So I take people through like a series, like you know, think about, just now you identified you want companionship, several other things. I just say, you know, think about if you were to get married, let's say in a year's time you got married, you have a family. When I say family, I'm using the term loosely. I'm not necessarily including children. It could be a nuclear family. It could be just you and your spouse. What are the elements of this home? And what I actually take people through, I ask them to imagine a day in the life of your future home. Walk through that and imagine it like a movie, with you being the star in the movie, or you being one of the actresses in the movie. And, you know, take yourself through an average day. What's going to happen when you wake up in the morning? What's going to, and just use your imagination like a child would. You know, children like to pretend, and work through the entire day or the entire week. And then ask yourself, you know, what is it that you would like? What elements? Now, after you've done that, and I suggest you could even write it. Writing is even more powerful than just imagine it. You write it like you write an essay, a descriptive essay or something like that. What would happen is that your mind, the mind is what we call teleological. Have you ever heard the term teleological? It's goal seeking. So be very careful when the Bible says whatsoever things are true and just and right, you know, think on these things. The Bible is bang on in terms of science. If you're only focusing on the negative things, that's what is attracted to the mind. We attract that which is dominant on our minds. So if you keep these things on your mind teleologically begin to, a good example is, have you ever gone and bought a dress that you thought this was a wonderful dress, and you get the dress, you thought it was unique and you're going to wear it to church. Then you get the dress and you step out of your house, and then you begin to see other people wearing the dress everywhere. What is happening, or what has happened, is that your mind is more focused on the dress, more so now than ever before. You probably weren't thinking about the dress, so you didn't see it. Now, once you begin to map out in your mind what I call the marriage template, your mind will begin, wherever you go, whether it's church, in the community, on your work, on your job, your mind will begin to subtly begin to suss or scan the environment for people who will suit this. So much so, I tell you how this operates. There are people who, they use a term, I don't know if you've heard the term mirror pathology. There are people who attract in their life other people who have similar unhealthy ways of relating. And it does so conversely too. Now, once you've done that, then you begin to, you don't necessarily need to hunt or any such thing. You begin to avail yourself in likely places where these prospects might be. So I call them prospect-rich environments. So when Eliezer went to Mesopotamia, he didn't go just anywhere. He went to the well. Why? That's where many of the women came. So the well would have been what I call a prospect-rich environment. And as you begin to do that, there are several other methodologies that you could use, strategies that you can use to put it out there. Of course, asking the Holy Spirit to lead and to guide, to tell you where to go, what to do, how to do it, and what is the next step. Those are just a few ideas that I want to posit. However, you can join my program and we could work on greater details.
Thank you, Brother Hilton. I certainly will consider.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
I have another question, but let me just say something. I want to say that let's be respectful in the chat, okay? Coming to a program and putting things in the chat that discredit the leader is not appropriate, right? Just want to say that I don't do that, and I don't want to encourage that. I spoke about having over 100 men in the ministry, and I can provide the names, I can provide the statistics. We have had over 50 men in this ministry who have led out in prayer, over 50, and I can give you the names of these over 50 men. So I don't just pull numbers out of hat, okay? But I want to ask a question, my elder. I'm a single man. I've never been married, all right? And a pastor, so I interact with a lot of women, single women. And many times, single women, when they see you as an eligible bachelor, they believe that, you should be talking to them, all right? And of course, I can't talk to all the women, I especially in this ministry, I have to be discreet, because if I go around and, say I like Mary and I like this one, and, it doesn't work out, it's problem, so I have to be careful, and have boundary and be discreet, all right? But I find out that many times, my elder, people start to say negative things about you and doing negative things against you when they find out that you are not necessarily interested in a relationship with them. Now, I want you to say something about that. How should we respond when we probably are interested in someone, and both for male and female, and they don't seem to reciprocate the interest?
Well, the answer would be different from a male perspective and a female perspective. So which one do you want me to focus on?
Well, do both. Talk about when a man likes a woman, and then when a woman likes a man.
Okay. What I'm hearing from you is that, in your position, you need to be very, very careful, because your reputation is at stake. And because of that, as a human being too, by the way, we need to be very clear that you will not be attracted to every single person. Neither would everybody be attracted to you. So sometimes we have the unfortunate situation, those you know, those we desire don't desire us. And those undesirables are the ones who are desiring us. So sometimes there's a little bit of a confusing situation there. However, clarity is important. Once you're clear about what you want or what you don't want, if people are availing themselves or to you, then depending on the manner in which they do that, of course, the response would be very much dependent on the manner in which they do that, then the response would have to be clear that this relationship or this won't really work for you. It's not something, I don't see you in that way, or I have my eyes in a different direction, or it just won't really work for you. If it is that they're just hinting, or, you know, just making suggestions, then of course you cannot definitively say, oh, you know, this is what you're doing or this is what you're doing, because they would retort that you're making it up in your head. If that's the case, you just ignore it. You just simply ignore until it is very clear that this is what they want. Now, if you're interested in someone, I think from a biblical point of view, I would do from a masculine point of view, I will do the Boaz approach. The Boaz approach, you see someone, you're interested in them, you research them before you approach them. So from afar, Boaz looked at Ruth, he began to research, he asked the men in the field, who is this lady? He got his data, and unfortunately, Boaz, for reasons we don't fully understand, except he was a mature guy, he decided that he didn't really directly approach. But then what he did, he began to be kind and helpful to Ruth. He began to show interest in Ruth. And then Naomi, who was Ruth's mother-in-law, when Ruth reported what was happening, Naomi picked up immediately that this guy is interested. You know, she has the upper ante, and they develop a strategy. Right, so once you're clear, once you have the initial interest, you've done your background information, your due diligence, and you are certain that this person fits the profile or the template that you have in mind. From a masculine point of view, I think males, it's good practice to approach the person, to engage the person. I'm not saying that you engage them asking them to marry. I'm suggest that you engage them in just casual conversation. Again, is another time for you to explore whether or not this person is indeed. And as the engagement and you get some kind of positive reciprocation, as it goes further and you're now definitively clear, well, you have to do the man thing. You just need to probably say, well, look, you know, I've been observing you. I like these qualities about you. I actually think that that I would like to perhaps explore the possibility of having a relationship. And I use that guardedly. I make sure you put that line in there. Explore the possibility. You're not telling them that you're going to marry them. I'd like to explore the possibility of a possible relationship and see what happens. That's from a masculine point of view. You want me to talk from the feminine?
Elder, I don't know if you got my question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. What's the question?
My question is, there are people who often they're interested in someone in the ministry. They might be interested, a lady might be interested in a man, all right? And he's not showing interest, all right? And so as a result, you find lots of time you hear bad talk about men, you know? And some people are nasty towards you because you don't reciprocate interest in them. So what would you say to them? If you like somebody,
to the victim, to the
perpetrator,
perpetrator,
the perpetrator, because that happens, and it has happened to me personally,
okay,
where your name is tarnished and bad things are said about you, because you do not reciprocate interest.
Well, if it is that you're talking from the perpetrator's point of view, I use the term loosely, sorry, I'm not trying to get at anyone. People have got to come to the realization that it's not everybody you like will like you. No, and there are people, and not everybody who likes you, you will like them.
Yes.
So that's a mature concept that we need to come to. And we get back to the internal locus of control, that it will hurt. Nobody likes being rejected or ignored. None of us like that. And I don't know what level of interest you've seen or they're picking up or they're doing. However, once it becomes clear that the target is not responding, then we will just have to, let it go. And that's the mature thing to do. But this is what they call, the name escapes me. There is a term in the world that they use, honey pot. It's like honey trap, or, well, no, that's not the right term, but it's revenge. Because you don't show interest, they take revenge in a twisted way by bad talking or making it difficult for you. That is not Christian and that is not healthy.
Right. In Jamaica, they said when fox can't get the grape, he says it's sour. That's what happens. So they start to say bad things about you. But to me, it's a test. It also gives you a chance to test the person's character. Because if I like somebody and I try to talk to them and they don't talk to me, I'm not going to be mean to them. I'm kind of nice to them, So when somebody likes you and you do not reciprocate and then they start doing bad things, it shows who they are, Well, but, yes. It happens a lot to us as men, Elder. In singles ministry, you get a lot of knock. You hear a lot of things being said about men, and it's simply because a lot of times, interest is not reciprocated. And sometimes you are talking to somebody else. You are talking to somebody else, so you can't go and talk to everybody because you're focused on somebody. So I want people to understand that we should be nice and kind to people who do not reciprocate interest in us. Maybe they might turn around. And
yes, that you never know. So the Bible has a principle for that, is that you love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that despitefully use you. Yes, so don't. It's the worst thing that you could possibly do is trying to blackmail someone else out of hurt feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I hope that helps, Pastor. But for the person who's on the receiving end of this, you have to have inner locus of control and rise above that. Mm-hmm. And the last thing you want to do is to engage in that level of trying to defend your name, trying to, get back at the person, or the whole concept will just drag you down. You have to live above it.
Yes. Amen. Amen.
And there's no need for you to go about trying to defend your name either.
Amen. I mean, when you are leading a ministry and the image that is painted out there, it's significant, and so let's protect each other,
Pastor, can I just say something here? That's a very important point that you want. You see what happens, there is what is known as your personality and your identity. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Your personality is what people think of you. Your identity is what you think of yourself. When a person targets you in a negative way,
mm-hmm.
it is your actions and how you respond that is the greatest test of who you really are.
Yes, yes.
And how you respond, even if it is negative, does more
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to
Right.
either reduce what they have said or obliterate it or confirm it.
Yes, yes, yes. You're right. Thank you, my elder. Thank you. I see a hand, but I think we're out of time.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if my sister, you could probably share the question personally with Elder Hilton, and he might be able to answer you. Elder, I am so thankful to you for coming time and time again to bless us in this ministry. I want to do something for you. The elder is all the way in the UK where it's midnight. It's very late, and he comes and he gives his time, and he gives it for free. So I don't know, Elder, if you have PayPal or something that somebody might want to bless you, want to give an opportunity so that someone can be a blessing to the elder who gives freely to us. And this what is giving is worth something. So if you can just put a link in the chat where someone bless you tonight, I want to give them an opportunity to do so.
Okay, I think you could pay via PayPal if you want to make a contribution to the ministry. My PayPal is
just type in the chat.
PayPal STEM. Or you can contact me directly and I could send something out. I'm happy to talk with any one of you if you want to book a free consultation with me. Those people who have already had a session with me, that this doesn't apply. Then there are people, if you want to have a private talk with me, you could use that link. Do not, please do not book if you're not going to show up. Nothing is more frustrating than having to clear your calendar for someone and then they don't show up. Yep, so that's it. We're currently running a meet, date, and marriage challenge where we take people through a series of steps that help them to not only meet, but date effectively and have a relationship move through to marriage. If you're interested and you want to talk more or find out more about it, I suggest you either email me. Don't email me on info@hiltonsamuel.com. That is for any donation you want. You can email me at godwantsyoumarried@gmail.com.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you very much. It was a plum pleasing pleasure being with you.